is basically to have a starting point on Wikipedia, have a little read through, maybe add a few little things along the way in terms of like my input or my thoughts on certain things, I guess. But the way we're going to navigate through Wikipedia is purely by pressing links from, I guess, articles that we're reading to then sort of link us to different subjects and topics. I guess this is like a Wikipedia rabbit hole type of video, something which I do enjoy doing from time to time. And there's even a game that you can play, I believe it's just called the Wikipedia game, where you can have a starting point and then you set something that you want to find. So say your starting point is the UK and you want to get to Donald Trump, and you have to do it as quick as possible, and the first person to get to Donald Trump's page by only using links is the winner. So that's quite fun. So you might notice just here that our starting point is going to be a map. I thought it was quite appropriate given that a lot of the content on this channel is map related. We'll go from there, have a little read and see what we can find. But I think with that said, we're just going to go straight into it. So let's go. So, let's start from up here. So, a map is a symbolic depiction emphasizing relationships between elements of some space, such as objects, regions, or themes. Many maps are static, fixed to paper or some other durable medium, while others are dynamic or interactive. Although most commonly used to depict geography, maps may represent any space, real or fictional, without regard to context or scale, such as in brain mapping, DNA mapping, or computer network topology mapping. The space being mapped may be two-dimensional, such as the surface of the Earth, three-dimensional, such as the interior of the Earth, or even more abstract spaces of any dimension, such as arise in modelling phenomena having many independent variables. Although the earliest maps known are of the heavens, geographic maps of territory have a very long tradition and exist from ancient times. The word map comes from medieval Latin mappa mundi, wherein mappa meant napkin or cloth, and mundi, the world. Thus, map became a shortened term referring to a two-dimensional representation of the surface of the world. That's quite interesting. I'm glad it mentioned about maps not just being about geography. I have also thought about trying to do some sort of non-geographical maps, I guess, in the past on this channel. I have also thought of that, so that's potentially something that we could do in the future. We have here a world map by Gerard von Schagen, Amsterdam. Let's see if I can zoom in. Yeah, I can. Okay, good. So as you can see here, or I guess maybe it's Schagen, not Schagen. If it's Amsterdam, you may be Dutch, so I think Schagen's probably more appropriate. So I guess this is, yeah, it's an interesting depiction of the world. As you can see here, North America is very incomplete, rather, as we didn't know too much about North America at that time, or certainly in the European world at least, there wasn't much knowledge of North America. And it's interesting that there's definitely differences in the shapes of things here. This is, I'm guessing, an early interpretation of Antarctica, but I'm fairly certain that that's not the shape of it nowadays. Africa's a little bit wonky, I guess, as to what we know it as today, and it's very square up here at the top of Siberia. So yeah, that was really interesting. Let's zoom back out. Okay. So let's read this section here, the history. The history of cartography traces the development of cartography or map-making technology in human history. Maps have been one of the most important human inventions for millennia, allowing humans to explain and navigate their way through the world. The earliest surviving maps include cave paintings and etchings on tusk and stone, followed by extensive maps produced by ancient Babylon, Greece, and Rome, China, and India. In their most simple form, maps are two-dimensional constructs. However, since the age of classical Greece, maps have also been projected onto a three-dimensional sphere known as a globe. The Mersata projection, developed by Flemish geographer Gerardus Mersata, was widely used as the standard two-dimensional projection of the Earth for world maps until the late 20th century, when more accurate projections were formulated. Mersata was also the first to use and popularise the concept of the atlas as a collection of maps. So that's interesting. Excuse me. I would like to actually press on here, Babylon. Let's have a little read about Babylon. Okay. So from the top here, just up here, Babylon was the capital city of the ancient Babylonian Empire, which itself is a term referring to either of two separate empires in the Mesopotamian area in antiquity. These two empires achieved regional dominance between the 19th and 15th centuries BC. So, I mean, that is so long ago. 19th and 15th centuries BC. That is a very, very long time ago. Older than Egypt. And again, between the 7th and 6th centuries BC. The city, built along both banks of the Euphrates River, had steep embankments to contain the river's seasonal floods. The site of the ancient city lies just south of present-day Baghdad, so in Iraq. The earliest known mention of Babylon as a small town appears on a clay tablet from the reign of Shah Kali Shari. Have a look at that, 2217 to 2193 BC. Long old time ago. Of the Akkadian Empire, Babylon was merely a religious and cultural centre at this point, and neither an independent state nor a large city like the rest of Mesopotamia. It was subject to the Akkadian or Akkadian Empire, which united all the Akkadian and Sumerian speakers under one rule. After the collapse of the Akkadian Empire, I'm going to go with Akkadian, the South Mesopotamian region was dominated by the Gutian people for a few decades before the rise of the third dynasty of Ur, which encompassed the whole of Mesopotamia, including the town of Babylon. The town became, so we're here now. The town became part of a small independent city-state with the rise of the First Babylonian Empire, now known as the Old Babylonian Empire, in the 19th century BC. The Amorite king Hammurabi founded the short-lived Old Babylonian Empire in the 18th century BC. He built Babylon into a major city and declared himself its king. Southern Mesopotamia became known as Babylonia, and Babylon eclipsed Nippur as region's holy city. The empire warned under Hammurabi's son Samsu-iluna, and Babylon spent long periods under Assyrian, Kassite and Elamite domination. After the Assyrians, I guess a precursor to Syria maybe, Assyrians had destroyed and then rebuilt it, Babylon became the capital of the short-lived Neo-Babylonian Empire from 609 to 539 BC. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, ranked as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world after the fall of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. The city came under the rule of, oh goodness me, Achaemenid, Seleucid, Parthian, Roman, Sassanid and Muslim empires. The last known habitation of the town dates from the 10th century AD, when it was referred to as the small village of Babel. It has been estimated that Babylon was the largest city in the world from 1770 to 1670 BC, and again 612 to 320 BC. It was perhaps the first city to reach a population above 200,000. Estimates for the maximum extent of its area range from 890 to 900 hectares, or 2.2 thousand acres. Wow. That's crazy. I mean, when we think about that number, 200,000, I mean, that must have been a fairly material portion of the world's population at that time. So that's very cool. I'm gonna go to this 7 wonders of the ancient world. I think this will be really interesting. Okay, the 7 wonders of the ancient world, also known as the 7 wonders of the world, or simply the 7 wonders, is a list of 7 notable structures present during the classical antiquity. The first known list of the 7 wonders dates back to the 2nd to 1st century BC. While the entries have varied over the centuries, the 7 traditional wonders are the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Colossus of Rhodes, the Lighthouse of Alexandria, the Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, the Temple of Artemis, the statue of Zeus at Olympia, and the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Using modern-day countries, 2 of the wonders were located in Greece, 2 in Turkey, 2 in Egypt, and 1 in Iraq. So, I would say somewhat similar proximity in terms of globally. It's not too much distance between Greece and Iraq. Certainly when you extrapolate that to a global scale, proportionally anyway. Okay, one of the 7 wonders, only the Pyramid of Giza, of the 7 wonders, only the Pyramid of Giza, which is also by far the oldest of the wonders, still remains standing, with the others being destroyed over the centuries. There is scholarly debate over the exact nature of the Hanging Gardens, and there is doubt as to whether they existed at all. I didn't know that actually. I suppose you just take for granted that it would have existed given its notoriety, but that's interesting. They're not even too sure whether the Hanging Gardens actually existed or not. So the Hanging Gardens of Babylon is top right here. So let's zoom in. Wow. So we got Temple of Artemis, statue of Zeus at Olympia, Mausoleum, Colossus of Rhodes, Lighthouse of Alexandria. Wow. nice, I guess. Okay, let's have a look at the background. Alexander the Great's conquest of much of the Western world in the 4th century BC gave Hellenistic travellers, so Hellenistic is, I'm guessing, travellers of a Greek origin, I think that's what that means, access to the civilizations of the Egyptians, Persians and Babylonians. Impressed and captivated by the landmarks and marvels of the various lands, these travellers began to list what they saw to remember them. Instead of wonders, the ancient Greeks spoke of theomata, which means sights, in other words, things to be seen. Later the word wonder, or thaumaata, thaumaata was used. Hence, the list was meant to be the ancient the world's counterpart of a travel guidebook. That's an interesting way of thinking about it. That's very cool. That's very cool. The first reference to a list of 7 such monuments was given by Diodorus Siculus, the epigrammist and Antipater of Sidon, who lived around or before 100 BC, gave a list of 7 wonders, including 6 of the present list, substituting the walls of Babylon for the lighthouse of Alexandria. And this is a quote from Greek Anthropology 9.58. I have gazed on the walls of impregnable Babylon, along which chariots may race, and on the Zeus by the banks of the Alpheus. I have seen the hanging gardens and the colossus of the Helios, the great man-made mountains of the lofty pyramids, and the gigantic tomb of Mausolus. But when I saw the sacred house of Artemis that towers to the clouds, the others were placed in the shade, for the sun himself has never looked upon its equal outside Olympus. Wow, that's a very, I guess, powerful, way of looking at it. So this shows a timeline and map of the 7 wonders. Dates in bold green and dark red are of their construction and destruction, respectively. Wow. So that's interesting. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon is suspected to have only lasted around the turn of AD. And then we have the mausoleum and the lighthouse at Alexandria lasting well into the Middle Ages. So that's very interesting. And obviously the Great Pyramid of Giza being the one that's still standing today, and also the oldest, as we talked about before. It's been standing for, they suspect, because I know that some of these dates are, or probably all of them are probably best guesses, for, what's that, 4.6 thousand years. Wow, 4,600 years. It's a long old time. Wow. So, let's find something else that we can press on here. I'm really glad we pressed on that, actually. British Museum. How did that get a mention? Maybe it's because it gobbles up relics from all over the world. Let's do this, actually. 8th Wonder of the World, about attempted additions to the famous ancient list. Let's have a see. Candidates for the 8th Wonder of the World. Bernie Falls in California, called so by Theodore Roosevelt. Deadfly, or Diadfly, Claypan in Namibia. The Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland is probably the one that's closest to myself here. It's very impressive. impressive actually. I've never been, but I do know what the Giant's Causeway is and looks like, and it is quite an interesting and impressive thing. The Grossmoor National Park in Newfoundland, Canada. Milford Sound in New Zealand, called so by Rudyard Kipling. Natural Tunnel, Virginia, so dubbed by William Jennings Bryan. Niagara Falls, I suppose, is maybe one of the more touted ones. Pink and White Terraces in New Zealand, prior to their wrongly assumed destruction in the 1886 eruption of Mount Tarawera. In 2017, researchers using a lost 1959 survey finally mapped the Pink and White Terrace locations. Torres del Paine, I'm guessing, but maybe it's Paine because it's Chile, National Park in Chile. The Great Wildebeest Migration in the Masai Mara. So that's interesting. I guess everything apart from that bottom one is I don't know how to say this because animals are part of nature, but they are fixed things in nature, or their general geographic location doesn't change. Whereas that the wildebeest migration in the Masai Mara is to do with animals, and it's a moving thing, I guess. I don't know. It's alive in the sense of what we consider to be alive for ourselves. I know, obviously, nature is alive. But yeah, pre-1900, Amber Room in the Catherine Palace near St. Petersburg, Russia. The Angkor Wat, Cambodia. Banaue rice terraces in the Philippines. Borobudur in Magelang, Indonesia. I'm butchering all of these. The Citadel, La Fière in Haiti. The Eads Bridge in St. Louis, Missouri. The Erie Canal, New York. The Monastery of El Escorial in Spain. The Fourth Railway Bridge in Scotland. The Great Wall of China. The original 1882 Kinsua Viaduct Railway Bridge in Pennsylvania. Kinsua. Leaning Tower of Pisa. Machu Picchu. I suppose Machu Picchu is another quite famous one. The Maui statues of Easter Island, Chile. The big faces that people use for memes. The obelisk of Axum in Ethiopia. The Polum dry dock in, I'm not going to try and pronounce that, in Sweden. The rock-hewn churches at Lalibela, Ethiopia. Royal Palace in Amsterdam. Sigiriya, Sri Lanka. Statue of Liberty, another famous one. The Taj Mahal, again, very famous. Chapel of the Rosario in Mexico. The Terracotta Army, China, again, quite famous. The original rail-only Victoria Bridge in Montreal, Canada. And the Thames Tunnel, London. Can we find anything on here that we'd like to know more about? King Kong. Gorillas, Wonder of the World, Andre the Giant. The Wrestler. close to where I live, and if that's an eighth wonder of the world, then I might be able to become number 9, because it's nothing special, in my opinion, in my most humble of opinions, of course. Let's have a look at... Because I was talking about it a little bit, let's have a look at the Giant's Causeway. So it's this like formation of really weirdly shaped, I don't even know if they are rocks, I think they're rocks. Well, let's read, shall we? You can sort of see very strangely shaped rocks. It's known as the Giant's Causeway. So the Giant's Causeway is an area of about 40,000 interlocking basalt columns. So it's basalt, the result of an ancient volcanic fissure eruption. It is located in County Antrim on the north coast of Northern Ireland, about 3 miles northeast of the town of Bushmills. It was declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 1986 and a National Nature Reserve by the Department of the Environment for Northern Ireland in 1987. In a 2005 poll of Radio Times readers, the Giant's Causeway was named the 4th greatest natural wonder in the United Kingdom. I wonder what were the first 3. I'm trying to think, maybe... I don't know. I actually have no idea what the other 3 would be. The tops of the columns form stepping stones that lead from the cliff foot and disappear under the sea. Most of the columns are hexagonal, although some have 4, 5, 7 or 8 sides. The tallest are about 12 metres or 39 feet high, and the solidified lava in the cliffs is 28 metres or 92 feet thick in places. Much of the Giant's Causeway and Causeway Coast World Heritage Site is owned and managed by the National Trust. It is one of the most popular tourist attractions in Northern Ireland, receiving over 998,000 visitors. I don't know why they could have just put receiving around 1 million, that would have sounded better in 2019. According to the Giant's Causeway, access to the Giant's Causeway is free of charge. It is not necessary to go via the visitor centre, which charges a fee. The remainder of the site is owned by the Crown Estate and several private landowners. Around 50 to 60 million years ago, during the Paleocene epoch, Antrim, so epochs are like ages of, I guess, the world in terms of sets of variables and characteristics which define things like climate and geography and things like that, I believe. And it's something I've been learning about in university, that a lot of people consider the world to be in an epoch known as the Anthropocene, which is to say that the Earth and its climate is now being sort of, I guess, directly and materially influenced by humans, enough so that they are the, I guess, driving factor of change in the world's climate and its ecosystems and all that sort of thing. Okay, so Antrim was subject to intense volcanic activity when highly fluid molten basalt intruded through chalk beds to form an extensive volcanic plateau. As the lava cooled, contraction occurred. Horizontal contraction fractured in a similar way to drying mud, with the cracks propagating down as the mass cooled, leaving pillar-like structures, which also fractured horizontally into biscuits. I guess it's colloquialism. In many cases, the horizontal fracture resulted in a bottom face that is convex. Which one's that? One of them's like this way, and the other's like that way. I can't remember which one it is. While the upper face of the lower segment is concave, The size of the columns was primarily determined by the speed at which lava cooled. The extensive fracture network. So I guess when the size of the columns was primarily, so I guess the ones that cooled quicker stayed larger. The extensive fracture network produced by the distinctive columns seen today. The extensive fracture network produced the distinctive columns seen today. The basalts were originally part of a great volcanic plateau called the Thulian, maybe, plateau, which formed during the Paleocene. Okay, very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Engraving of Susanna Drury's A View of the Giant's Causeway. Tourism, the Bishop of Derry. Notable features. Yeah, so here we go. That's what the rocks themselves look like. They're all hexagonal and quite uniform. So it's a very interesting site. Okie doke, everybody. I think we're going to call it there for now. I would love to do another one of these in the future if you guys would be interested. So please let me know down below if that's the case. And also let me know anything interesting that you maybe know about any of the topics that we've discussed today. I want to say a massive thank you to everybody for tuning in. Thank you, as always, for your kind support, comments, subscriptions, all of that. I'm always very humbled by it. With that said,